Motivator, Dr. McIntyre, J.R. McIntyre. Thank you for just coming to the Hood Motivators table. Thank you for airing. I appreciate you. Thank you, Riverside, for letting us use your platform. And thank you, Los Angeles Tribune, for signing me to your podcast division last year. I'm on the road. I'm on a mission to do 100 episodes. I want to make sure I spotlight as many people as possible. And today I got a special guest. I got Mr. Keith Lyons right here. We're going to sit here at the Motivators table. We're going to motivate each other. He's a motivational piece in his community. And I want to make sure we sit him at the table and we give him a little bit of motivation so he can carry on. What's going on, Keith? How you doing, brother?
I'm great. I'm great. Glad to be here, Jay.
Good, good, man. Tell us all about you. Tell my community, tell the chat who you are and where you came from.
All right. So, as Jay already mentioned, so my name is Keith Lyons. I'm a Iraq war veteran. My family ultimately a long history for the most part of military family. My grandfather on my mother's side, he was in the Navy. My father, he was an Air Force veteran even by the time I was born. He had actually retired right before I was born, so he'd already done his 20 years. Um, I was ultimately next in line. I followed in my father's footsteps. I almost went Army, but he talked me out of it.
Right.
Uh, so I spent my first 5 years as a C-130 hydraulics mechanic stationed at Herbert Field, Florida, AFSOC. At the time, that was command right there. I think there's been some changes since then, but ultimately, in 2001, I was diagnosed with stage 3B Hodgkin disease. I went through about 16 treatments of chemotherapy from beginning of '01 to the end of '01, and then was put in remission in January 2002. I was kind of in limbo for about 3 or 4 months, and my first enlistment was coming up July, and I still have a 4T profile. I can't reenlist. I can't do nothing. And ultimately, I had to get some people that I met along the way during my convalescent leave time to actually light a little bit of a fire at headquarters AFPC, which is in San Antonio, Texas. They ultimately got my 4T profile lifted. I was able to retrain. So then I had to wait until a retraining slot came open. So what I ultimately did was, even during my that time period of ultimately kind of being in limbo, I said, well, I got to do something. I can't go back working with hydraulic fluid and JP8, which is fuel, because both are carcinogens. So I ultimately did full-time honor guard on Herbert Field. And you when you go through something so early in life, I just turned 21, and then here I am. I'm in best shape of my life. Then hey, you got cancer, you know. Uh, so ultimately, what I ended up doing was, during my time, you see the things, and you witness things, as you're ultimately kind of giving back the best way that you feel that you possibly can. And I did that through my services being an honor guardsman. And then ultimately, when I was given the opportunity to retrain, I said, hey, why not become a medical technician? So I became a medical technician because of what I had went through. I said, you know what, this has got to be a way for me to give back. So I retrain. I go to Shepherd Air Force Base, back to where I first went to for my original technical school. Uh, did my phase 1 there, and did my phase 2 at Lackland Air Force Base. So while at Lackland Air Force Base, I worked on the bone marrow transplant unit. I said, man, this is where I need to be. So made a started talking with the career advisor there, and he got me squared away. And there happened to be a guy that was coming into them about the same time that I would have been reporting back to there somewhere, because you get your choice of where you want to get stationed at. And I wanted to be a TI, and of course following my father's footsteps. And so I retrained, complete everything, go back to Herbert Field, find out I got a line number for E5, come back, and I get stationed at Lackland Air Force Base in the bone marrow transplant unit. So that's where I met my wife. She didn't know it then, but I walked in. We had the orderly rooms. That's what we called them back in the day. So she's sitting there. She's personnel, and I walk in my cocky self, and she's like, "Who's this cocky guy right here?" So her friend actually sent an email from her email to my email, and that's how we wound up going on our first date. I'm like, "Oh, cool, yeah, I'll go hang out, whatever." And she had no idea. Here she is. She gets a response from me. So almost 22 years later, here we are, still married. Been through a lot with one another, but that's the whole process of life and growing to know people. And 90 days from the day we went on our first date to us getting married, we got married 90 days later. So we were the OGs of 90 Day Fiance. And so she ultimately got orders to Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I also became an instant father to two beautiful girls. And then about a year later, because I ultimately took a deployment to Iraq, Balad Air Base, Iraq. Was there from late summer to early spring from '04 to '05. I returned in '05. Came back, got stationed at Albuquerque, New Mexico, Kirtland Air Force Base. Went and visited her at Keesler Air Force Base. She was there for, I think, 7-level training, I believe. And next thing you know, she'd come back and, "Hey, I'm pregnant." I'm like, "All right." So next thing you know, we got our son here. And, so we have 3 beautiful children. They're all grown adults, 2 of which are military veterans themselves.
Okay.
And 3 beautiful grandkids. And ultimately, late '07, '08, I was just, getting run down. Like, I'd wake up and just be instantly tired. And so ultimately, after some testing, found out that, I was suffering from side effects of chemotherapy. So that's what I ultimately got medically retired for. And from there, did a little contracting overseas, came back and got into law enforcement, started out in Georgia, Oklahoma, Payne County, Stillwater, Oklahoma. That's a home of OSU. I'm not an OSU fan. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. I'm from California. All day. USC all day.
What was that?
USC all day.
I got you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so lots of moves from around the '04, '05 area.
Yeah.
Correction. 20, 2012, 2013, this time frame. Lots of moves. Knoxville, Tennessee, Stillwater, Oklahoma, Georgia, back to Seymour, Tennessee, which is right between Knoxville and Sevierville, and then now here we are in Batesville, Mississippi.
Okay. In the story, like, Chad, if you guys are understanding and listening, he just walked you on his life and how he joined the military and the history and the traditions on why, and his family, his beautiful family. Those are your bases right there, and I appreciate you because these are real stories. These are real motivators that come on my platform, and they tell their stories, and this is your story right here. Can you tell me how you was as a child, as an inner child?
Man, I tell you what, I was always in the woods. I was always out doing things. Went everywhere on foot or a bicycle. Had some fun times growing up in the woods of Tennessee. Just my father, he's blessed. He had a rough childhood himself. 14 years old, and ultimately had to let his father know not to lay his hands on his mother anymore. So at 14, his father, my grandfather, he basically walked out of their lives. They were living in San Diego, California, and by the time he was 16, he owned a fleet of tow trucks, and ran ran a fleet of tow trucks by himself. With some help, of course, but and from there, he did that. Um, Not great education.
Wow.
Um, from 1931, joined the military. 20 years later, 1950 something, retired. Traveled all over the place.
Hmm.
Was married 4 times. Divorced 4 times.
Hey, listen.
But let me tell you that there's nothing that man couldn't do.
Right.
And his drive in life and his drive to provide for his family was never ending. He worked all the time, worked all the time. I did, being a young man and, going to school and, only, Saturdays and Sundays, it's beautiful outside or it's cold, and we got people that live down the street from us and they're elderly and we're out there cutting wood in the, snow and ice and it's cold outside and I'm wheelbarrowing uh, log after log after log after log to these people's homes, to make sure that they had wood for the winter. And I mean, it's always been this process of giving back, helping those that can't help themselves or lack those resources to help them. And where we lived, I mean, we had nothing, man. There was nothing out there. The property that we lived at, we actually had the water tanks on our property that ultimately supplied water to everybody else's houses. So if something happened, with a water pump or something like that, nobody had water. So that was something that we were kind of ultimately responsible for, and but I had a great childhood. Four wheelers, three wheelers, motorbikes, wandering through the woods with a backpack with some sandwiches and some water or some Gatorade or something, and just going, hey, where would this where would this take me to? And then coming back before lights come on, and yeah, that was it. My father, he built 2 stores in the time that we were in Tennessee, stationary where we were at, and man, we would have socials. Um, we My dad was, I take a lot from him. He's this guy that just attract people without having to go out and search for people, to be part of his life. People would
Right.
just be attracted to him, like a magnet.
Right.
And we had people that would come from like Louisiana and like West Tennessee, and man, we build a freaking stage, and they come out. They'd be out there playing Cajun music, and my dad's favorite thing to make was what they called the green jug,
The green juice. What
and
is
it was
that?
full of moonshine,
Moonshine.
ice, 7 Up, and like lemon lime Kool-Aid, man. And they just sit there and walk around to shake this jug. They'd pass it all around everybody, and the next thing you know, everybody's just, having a good time, and he's coming up on his 60s by this time, and man, he's out there one-handed push-ups, and he was a hefty dude. He's about my height, about 5'11", 6 foot, and probably a good 250. But I mean, he was one of those that corn-fed kind of
Yeah.
guy, and man, just out there, he put the young dudes to freaking, he put them to bed, and he'd be out there arm wrestling jokers and just wham, just putting them down, and uh, they 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 get to a point where the party's settling down. They're like, Dan's trying to drive away in his truck, so they're like, let's just be smart. So they'd go out there and they disconnect their distributor and pull out the plug wires, and they're like, "Ah, we got them." Next thing you know, they hear a truck starting up. That was the kind of guy he was. He was very smart, very
Yeah.
smart.
Man, it sounds like your grandfather and your dad and you guys got a heavy lineage, and you know what I'm saying, that's appreciated because a lot of this society right now, they don't have that type of leadership in their lineage. Somewhere down the line, their fathers, their mothers, their grandfathers, they don't know there's these stories. So I let you tell the story because it's interesting, because it intrigues me. I remember my grandfather. He ran for city councilman, in Long Beach. He died in 1999, but he was a great man. He was a bishop. He was a minister. He was a Kappa. I'm a Sigma. I saw him do a lot of things. My mother and father. He was a Jamaican man, hardworking, tall, had a great smile. I saw all that, so it's great to hear that story, because it's like I watched my grandfather, and it's like things that I'm doing now, it's just elevated to like the 10th level that he was doing already, and it's in our blood. It's our birthright. We're not trying to be nobody else. It was already passed down for me
That's
to be a
right.
speaker, because my dad was a minister, bishop. Both my grandfathers were ministers. I was just running away from it. So now I pick up the mantle and do it my way and spread my message and my positivity. It's something like that you're doing right now that's innately inside of you. Your grandfather, your dad, both, what I'm saying, good dudes. Put a lot of tradition in the family. Been there, done that. So I appreciate your family tree like that. Tell me, how was you in the military? Tell me, how was your character? How was your core?
So, my my time at Herbert Field, it really molded me into. Well, I'll even go back a little bit before that. So, basic military training, Lackland Air Force Base, 1998, July 1998. Hot, hot. You know, I definitely understood hard work, dedication, being, with that mindset of, if you aren't prepared to complete something, go all the way with it, don't do it, right?
Right.
So ultimately, I had a staff sergeant TI and Staff Sergeant Vasquez. I wish I could find the guy, but you know, he some of the stories that he told to us as a BMT flight. He talked about how he had lost friends over in Kobar Towers and and whatnot, and how that affected him. So I took that, I took that story and said, what, this is, what I'm embarking on here. It's, it's something bigger than myself, and I've always lived by our first core value, which is integrity first. And I have never forgotten that in my life. And I apply it in every aspect. And so as I go through BMT and I get stationed at Shepherd Air Force Base from a technical school, I have a split cadre of uh, Air Force TIs and I have Army DIs as well. And so I, I'm I'm getting smoked by Army DIs um, and I'm learning all this stuff and I complete that and I'm like, they're like, hey, you're going to Herbert Field, and I'm like, well, where in the hell is Herbert Field? So December of '98, I wind up at Herbert Field, Florida. uh, Senior Airman Charles Schreckengost, he was my sponsor. He brings me in and I mean ultimately teaches me a lot about you know my job and everything. And I was that guy that I took. Yeah, I've always been a taker of the good and the bad, because you can't just take the good and leave out the bad, because the
Right.
bad also influences you about who you are and who you want to become. And
Right.
there has to be a balance. Without that balance, you know you're missing something in life.
Right.
And so I'd come into work. I'm a hydraulics mechanic.
Yeah.
I'd come in, I got creases in my unit. I'm covered in hydraulic fluid. You know, go home, come back into work the next day. My uniform creases, my boots are polished. I would have to take all the freaking shoe polish off my boots and restart all over again just so I could come back in looking the same way, sharp and presentable, um, and ready to work the next day, regardless of whenever that was, you know what I mean? Um, but a lot of who I am today is because of how the AFSOC culture molded me into a man ultimately. And our motto, anytime, any place. That's what it was, right? And so I look at that, and I look at where I am now, and the things that I do, anytime, any place. That it was, it's kind of like our that first conversation that you and I had, and that was through LinkedIn.
Right.
What'd I do? I shot you my freaking phone number, man, because I don't care. Um, my biggest thing is, I want others to understand that, just because you're going through something in life, a complete stranger
Right.
can ultimately be a set of ears,
Right.
and that's ultimately what, I strive to be for everyone. And I took all that from the military, and when I retrained and became a medic, the atmosphere changed, and that was early 2000s, and for going from AFSOC to now I'm in a medical group, the family cohesiveness that I had in the military at headquarters at AFSOC, Herbertfield, Florida, I didn't find that where I was at the medical group in Lackland Air Force Base. It was this mentality of me, and I had troops under me. I had, there was other supervisors, and I had like 12 airmen under me, and these other supervisors have one or two, maybe three, and I'm like, why do I have so many? You know, but it's, ultimately I had to be a good mentor. I had to be a great leader. I had to be a good listener, and also you have to be a good follower. You have to have all those traits to be a good supervisor. And man, my troops knew from the moment that they had contact with me. I was there for them to help them grow and become the best them that they could be, while also maintaining our core values. And being of service to others. And I didn't hesitate to let others know, hey, look, you got a problem with my troops. You better come to me first,
Right.
because
Let
those
me
are
know.
my troops.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't get to discipline my troops. That's my job. That's why I'm the supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
And that mentality that I had, it caused a lot of rifts, within the medical group. There was people that just didn't like me, but I'm the type of person, if I'm not here to make friends, if I make friends along the way, that's great. If I don't, and you don't want to be in my life, that's great too. It
Right.
doesn't matter to me. But, I'm going to be who I'm going to be regardless. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Exactly.
I think a lot of people tend to get away from their true selves, because of what others perceive, others' perceptions. And they get into this pattern of, I'm just going to follow. If I follow, then, things will be okay. You know, but that's ultimately kind of the life that I had in the military. It was, I look back, those almost 12 years before I got medically retired, filled with great times. I went to a lot of places that I never thought I would have gone ever. I had to volunteer for my deployment to Iraq, just so another guy could finish up his bachelor's degree and get out.
That's
That's
it.
just, that was just the kind of guy that I was. So, and now here I am. I'm 46 years old now. And I'm a cop in Batesville, Mississippi. And
Right.
it's very different. And But a lot of that military in my life, my own life experiences, I
Right.
bring that here, because of what I've experienced in the military and
Right.
also as a cop in Georgia as well.
Right. And that's what I want to talk about too, is like that transition. And I'm letting you talk and tell your story because I think the community, the motivators, they need to hear this type of story. They need to understand. They need to feel that, you know what I'm saying, this person is connected to me. Now that you have transitioned out the military and everything like that, and we mention mental health all the time. You transition now into being a uniformed police officer. How's that journey been going for you?
Well, so just bear with me, okay? So I get out of the military. I get medically retired in 2009, November 2009. Contract, as a medical technician working on the BMT ward, I saw death. Okay. And so I get out, I go contracting, come back, I'm a jailer, moved to Stillwater, Oklahoma. That's started jail, and then from there to Georgia. I worked in the jail there, and then I went out to the road around 2016. 2016, 18 months in the department that I was with. I left because ultimately I had I had moved actually beyond my peers because they were those cops, those deputy sheriffs that are like, I'm just here collecting a paycheck type mentality, and there's plenty of those, but there's plenty of us too, like myself. So I I go up to a department, Hall County, Georgia. It's northern Georgia, and I'm coming up on my 3 year mark being in law enforcement as a certified law enforcement officer. And ultimately, officer involved shooting. He doesn't make it. Very good friend. Provided life saving medical attention to the shooter. And then ultimately having to go to trial on that and looking at these people, you know, in their faces and, then having his attorneys tell me thank you for saving his life. I didn't realize how much trauma that I had actually taken, even though I wasn't part of the actual officer involved shooting. We're trying to get to him where everything's taking place at, but ultimately I wind up there and, I do what I do because I'm a human being and regardless of who you are, I'm going to do whatever I can do because that's my duty. And, in my mind, you do go through, you go through this, battle within yourself. And if you're a person of good moral character, you're going to do the right thing. And so ultimately, I do the right thing. And that was without even thinking. So that takes place. A year or so goes by. I've changed departments. And a buddy of mine that was also involved in the officer involved shooting, he's like, hey, my department's gonna, because he left too. He's like, hey, my department's gonna send me to this cops retreat. And I was like, what's cops retreat? It's up in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. Could be Wisconsin, could be Michigan, but I know it's something like that. Pretty sure Minnesota. So he and I, we go up to this retreat up in Minnesota, and there's barely any internet. There's no TVs in the room. There's no phones, and you're totally secluded. You're at this old YMCA, beautiful, beautiful lake, so serene. And so we get split up, and we're sitting in these like big groups, you know, and there's people that are telling their story because there's new people that come every year and they're telling their stories. And by the time they get to me, I'm already, Niagara Falls over here. And then I tell my story and it's even worse. And so they have psychologists and things like that that come to these. And so they have what they call EMDR. And it's like eye movement, something or another. I can't remember. But, it wasn't until this comps retreat that I realized how much trauma I actually had, how much trauma I was actually dealing with, how much trauma that all these things that I go through still to this day, how all of that affected me and it still is affecting me. And it's pretty crappy to tell you the truth.
Right. I'm holding space for you right now. It's okay. This is where you come at the table, tell your story.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said, this is why we do what we do. You sit at the table, you tell your story. I'm holding space for you.
And then, I do all this. So my sister that I really don't talk with much anymore. Well, I don't talk with her at all. Her husband, he was an Army vet. Went through some severe trauma when he was on his deployments. And I look back now and I'm like, due to the situation with me and my sister, she that ultimately drove a wedge. And next thing you know, last year, no, 24, he ultimately committed suicide.
Mm. Wow.
And that hit me hard. You see it,
Right.
and then you're like, in your mind, you're like, I hope that never happens to me,
Right.
and then it happens.
Right. No. It's okay. That's why we're here.
And then, I got I now have my son and my daughter. They're both veterans now. And my wife, she's a veteran. Her two brothers are veterans. And it's, it's a daily battle within myself. Sometimes I have my good days, a lot of bad days.
Right.
And it not only affects you, it affects those people that you love. And, you become this person that's just so shut off. And you can't tell the normal person that hasn't filled those shoes. You just can't and have them understand.
Right.
And they may look at you like, you pansy, you wuss,
Right.
whatever, And then you got even military members that are look at you and tell you the same crap.
Right.
And what a stigmatism that we have created for ourselves.
Right.
And, I've listened to the things that my son and my daughter have told me that, things that they've experienced and whatnot, and, it pisses me off. They're both Army. And I'm like, something's got to change, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be tough on recruits because you need to be tough. You need, you can't be somebody that goes, oh, let me have feelings for this person that was just trying to kill me. Because you're going to wind up coming back in a box.
Right. Right.
But you have to have a strong mentality. You can't be weak minded.
Right.
And, you know, looking at where we are today, we're 2026 now, and we really haven't had a true conflict per se. We have deployed troops to certain places, a lot of presence. There are some that have engaged in some type of battle.
Right.
And then of course, you got your Delta Force and SEAL teams and whatever and whatnot that do all that secret squirrel stuff. But those I can't even imagine what those guys go through.
Right.
I can't imagine how they're able to compartmentalize all of that stuff and still function.
Right.
And you almost have to tell yourself, if this is the path I'm going down, I'm just going to stay single.
Right.
I,
Right.
I don't want what's going to come later on down the road to affect anybody that I'm responsible for, you know, and I don't want the person that I'm laying next to at night to wake up to me screaming, or I don't want to wake up on top of this person choking them, because that's ultimately the reality. But how do those guys, deal with what they go through, and I was just a medic,
Right. Right.
you know,
Yeah.
I was a C-130 hydraulics mechanic,
Right. And I
but
tell people that all the time. I tell them, I said, listen, I'm glad you're hitting on it. I did 55 months in combat outside the wire, 13 Fox Jet 4 JTAC, like lost 25 guys, did a lot of crazy things. Not one PTSD experience, many IEDs, many troops in contact, lost 25 guys. You know what I'm saying? And I used to think it was not normal, for us to be out there, and they didn't have the parameters from '03 to 2010 where they have now. We hit an IED, we stop, we got to do a TBI check, we get in
yeah,
small arms. One of our guys die, we get back on the mission the same day, a couple hours
yeah,
later, go spin the block, come back, go find out who did it, keep going back and forth. It's four trucks, five,
yeah,
one truck take off. We keep go four out the wire. We keep rotating. This is 365 days. I did a 13-month, 15-month, 12-month, and a 9-month. So these are all, and I tell people all the time. I said, I thank God I am here where I'm at right now, because I was hospitalized for 77 days, TBI, PTSD, really, really bad. Couldn't see my way out of it. Then after getting out the military, bankrupt, went hospitalized again, fourth suicidal ideation. I was like, man, I can't make nobody happy. So now this going from childhood to military to entrepreneurship, and then people wonder why that I'm doing what I'm doing now. I said, because it took all that to ignite, to activate my gift. Like we talk about the elites, but I tell people all the time, I said, listen, law enforcement, all military branches, if you outside of that wire doing your job, policing up. I remember on our 15-month deployment, we had body bags with our name on it. You know what I'm saying? And they was like, if that happens to us and our truck explodes, then we could put our body parts inside of there. We could collect each other's and do that. That was part of our packing list. That was part of our packing list. So it's like I go to sleep at night, and the same thing you just hit on. I don't want to put that on my wife. I'm not married. I don't. I got my kids. I went through horrible relationships. I went through horrible trying to just find myself. It was hard, but what it did was help me activate my gift to what I'm doing now, and bringing guys like you on and saying, brother, we proud of you. We love you. Thank you for doing what you're doing as a law enforcement. So you got out the military, continue to serve in law enforcement, and you have a lot of emotion. A lot of people don't think, a lot of guys like us that's frontline, they think we're robots. No, I cry all the time. I hurt all the time. Actually, that's my biggest power is now is saying, hey, something is wrong. I can't do this today. My head, I got a migraine. I'm doing this. I don't want to do this. The medication doing this to me. I'm sleeping. I'm feeling this type of way. And then I developed after that, on top of my superpower, a power of discernment. So now I don't even want to be around certain type of people that would ignite that type of problem or that trauma. So I commend you for being out there in them streets doing what you're doing because you're putting the Lions den. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna give a moment of silence for a lot of our brothers and sisters that still committing suicide right now. It's
Yes,
still
sir.
real. It's still real. Like I posted a post, I think it was mid last year, with all the medicines I was taking, and people were thrown back. Like you only see Jr. Dr. McIntyre, the Hood Motivator. You don't know I wake up every day and I struggle to give you the best version of myself. But guess what? The best version of myself helps so many people. So I can't give up. I can't give up. I'm gonna tell you right now, brother, you can't give up. Like I'm here for you. And you know what? I'm gonna tell you guys, chat and crowd, new followers. Oh, this man checks on me every chance he gets. He never met in person, never met in person, but he checks on me, DMs me, Jay, are you good? I see what you're doing. I'm proud of you, but are you good? And I had to stop what I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, brother, I'm good. Like, thank you for noticing that, because I tend to hide out in the hood motivator. Like, I shelter myself because the world is so cruel. They tend to forget we were them kids that put our life on the line for this country. 19, 20, 21, 22. I was a kid leading kids to combat while being a father as a kid. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And now that my son is about to, my son joins the army in March. JR, why are you sending your son to the army? Because guess what? Me coming from where I came from, this is the best case scenario for him. I'd rather him do all that stuff and get paid for it than do it here and just do nothing. You know what I'm saying? Not saying he's not going to do anything, but hey, my family tree, I'm gonna make sure that we're prideful. I'm gonna make sure that we protect and so we do what we have to do. We are the true warriors. There's no talk like even with my education, I got TBI, but guess what? Every day it hurts for me to continue my doctorate. I graduated at the end of this year. I didn't know I was gonna be a doctor. But look at you right now, and we are proud of you, Mo. And this is the section. This is a session when we come in and say, you know what, I'm gonna pour into you. So hold your cup up real quick. Hold an empty cup up like Peter Pan. Do that for me real quick. Now pour it out. All right, now I'm about to pour into you, man. Hey, listen, brother, man, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for just coming on my show. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for just being a part of the community, man. You are loved. Your kids got an awesome father. Y'all come from a elite background and veterans, and I appreciate you. But you pulled up to the motivators table, and I got to give you this. Listen, you don't don't take your foot off the gas. Somebody's watching you. You're entertaining angels unawarely out there in that forest. Continue to do what you do. Them families that you're mourning, I'm sure, I know they appreciate you because you bring them up, you mourn them, you honor them, and thank you for honoring them, and thank you for doing what you're doing. You think you took a hiccup when they stopped you in basic training, but God built you for this moment right now. He stopped that purpose, and he put you to, he redirected you in the azimuth to something else. And we appreciate you and we love you here on the motivators table. And don't stop what you're doing. I know I had to grab you right before you get, I know you got to get going, but at the end of the day, this is where we come, where the motivators come to get motivated. You know what I'm saying? And I want to let you know, you take that with you. You understand this man on the other side understands and cares about you and your mental and your family, and take care of yourself because we need you. We need you out here. And whenever you're done serving and being a police officer, like I'm here to talk and figure this thing out. Thank you for being there for me. You are a true friend. You're a true fan, and you are honest as it could get. And thank you for today. You just checked on me again out the blue, and I was like, "Come on, hey, let's do this real quick. Let's show
I
your
mean,
community, man."
that's what we're here for, Jay.
Yeah,
We all come from all walks of life, and we have our own stories, and we have to check on one another. That's the whole. That's ultimately the whole reason, why the whole 22 movement started in the first place.
right.
We weren't checking on one another.
Right, and we appreciate you. Do me a favor, brother.
Yeah.
Tell my audience, tell my chat, tell my community where they can find you at and how they can reach you. Tell them real quick and leave me what a quote that you've been wanting to tell the world.
Oh Lord, you put me on the spot. Well, ultimately, anybody out there listening, watching, you can find me out there on LinkedIn. Keith Lyons, pretty Batesville, Mississippi. Definitely, you can find me. Don't have any other social media other than that. I just got rid of it all. But ultimately, um, if I'm going to tell anybody anything, it's I didn't know Jay. Jay didn't know me, and all it takes is a quick message. Don't hesitate. If you see something, don't look right, even though you don't know that person. All it takes is a quick message. Hell, if they got a freaking phone number that's posted in their bio, whatever it is, man, call them up. Like, hey, man, I just saw, if they get an email address, send them an email. Because we all need to be here for one another. And, you have no idea what that 5-second text, what that 10-minute phone call, that email, you don't know what you're going to ultimately end up doing for that person. And it could be the difference between them, wanting to go through with something, or them going, you know what, you're right. There is a purpose for me.
Right.
So, much love to everybody. Much love to you, Jay. And I'm definitely going to continue to check on you. It may not be every day, but you my brother.
My brother, I appreciate you, man. And this is, those kind words carry me on to continue what I'm doing. I'm on a mission to do 100 some episodes this year for the Los Angeles Tribune. I'm on a mission to just touch everybody I need to touch, because at the end of the day, this is what God gave me. And I think I was blessed to continue doing this. God kept me here for a reason, so I could tell my friends' stories, and also tell my story, also honor them. But at the end of the day, like, I want to be able to leave the motivators with this. Hey, there's two animals that distinctly understand and know when trials and tribulations, a storm is coming in. And that's the cow or the bull. If you're down south, you know that already. Tornadoes, hurricane, everything. The cow and
That's
the
right.
bull
Animals
knows.
know.
They knows. And two things right here. The cow, it knows when it's coming, and it continues to run in the same path as the tornado or the storm or the trials and tribulations. And the bull turns around and runs right into the eye of it, gets on the other side, and understands how to get his other partners out of there. Which one are you going to be? A lot of us run. We continue to be the cow. We make excuses on why this will continue to happen to us. It will happen. I'm going to tell you this, folks. Stuff will continue to happen. You just got to get in front of your ugly. You got to turn around and say, you know what, today I'm the bull, and I'm gonna be stubborn, and I'm gonna go back this way, so I can. If it don't work for me, it's gonna work for my lineage. I'm gonna help my family, my kids, my brothers, my sister, to let them know I can do it. Today, you are the bull, and I'm the bull, and right here we're telling our story and letting people know, hey, we go through trials and tribulations, nightmares, PTSD, sweats. Like, I deal with it, migraines. Some days I don't want to be bothered. Some days you ain't gonna catch me doing this. But at the end of the day, I want to stand up, and I'm becoming the bull still, because I got in front of my ugly. I told my truth. I said, you know what? In that dark corner where them demons was at, I fought them off. And I'm still here, and I'm still trying every day to be the best version of myself. And I appreciate you, Keith Lyons, for you are being a better version of yourself. We love you, we proud of you, and thank you, bro. And I appreciate you so much, and thank you for coming on and just, telling us your story. We appreciate you at the motivators table, and hopefully you left here motivated. Boom.